Good evening. Welcome to the lessons of Vietnam. My name is Bill Dixon with North Carolina Vietnam Veterans Incorporated. My co-host, Mr. Bob Matthews, scholar extraordinary, will be on shortly. I have with us tonight a very special guest. We've been friends for a long time. With me, I have Lee Wilson. Lee was one of the founding members of North Carolina Vietnam Veterans Incorporated. In fact, she signed the Articles of Corporation. We've given Lee a hard time over the years. I'll explain that to you a little bit as we go. Lee is a Vietnam vet. In country Vietnam vet, not air Vietnam vet. She was a Vietnam vet in country. She was not a nurse. I want to get that out to start with, so she won't hit me. Even though, and do not ask her anytime if you want to call in or whatever. Don't call in and ask her if that's her husband's medals, because you should hit me too again. But she was actually an engineer, carried a weapon in Vietnam, and one of the few women that you will find that was in the military that actually served in country Vietnam with a weapon. She was in the combat engineers. I believe you were 20th Engineer Brigade.
No, engineer headquarters.
Engineer headquarters,
Yeah.
okay. And she was at Long Binh. I was at Long Binh. She stayed with the WACs. They wouldn't let me stay with the WACs or the nurses. But you stayed there at Long Binh. Let's go back a little bit. Where are you from originally?
Originally from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay. How did a young lady from Las Vegas, Nevada end up in the Army? I mean, some of it, the guys, we got this letter from Uncle Sam going greetings or whatever, but you didn't get that word about that letter.
No, I went up to San Francisco to visit some friends, and somehow a recruiter walked by and was talking to us, and I didn't have a job, didn't really know what I was going to do, and he talked me into joining the Army, and I did.
A lot of things, strange things come out of San Francisco about that time.
Yeah.
Now, what year was that?
Oh, goodness. I joined the Army in 66.
66? Okay.
66. So.
All right. Where did you go to basic?
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Okay, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. How many women were in your basic training?
Back then, oh, goodness. 60 maybe, if
Okay.
that many.
Okay, and then you went from Fort Leonard Wood basic training. Where did they send you to AIT or whatever they did?
They sent me to someplace. I'm sorry.
Sorry, what was the subject? You were
Fort Jackson.
Fort Jackson.
Fort Jackson.
Okay.
South Carolina.
And they teach you to be clerk typist, or what kind of school?
Her job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't go to school because I found out I could type and read and write and talk.
Okay. Right.
So I was in the place that did all the paperwork for people getting out of the Army.
Okay.
Admin, yeah.
Now, how did you end up in Vietnam? Did you ask to go to Vietnam, or you just one day to come in and said, what rank were you at that time?
E4.
E4, specialist E4. Wilson, would you like to go to Vietnam? How'd you end up in Vietnam?
I hated South Carolina. I'm from Nevada.
Okay.
I never did get used to the
Little
South.
swampy, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Right.
I volunteered. I heard somebody say something about they had just started a WAC detachment over there, and I said, "Oh, that's got to be better." So I volunteered.
Okay, that was probably in what, 67, or was it still 66? You remember?
Oh no, it was late 67.
Okay, late 67 by the time you got there. Now, when that plane landed, you were in this place called Vietnam where there was a war going on. Do you remember what you thought when the plane, you probably were one of the few women on the airplane.
I was the only woman.
Oh, okay.
I had it made.
Okay. Yeah.
And
So-
we landed Tet of 68.
Okay.
The night Tet opened.
We were probably both at the airport about the same time, because I
Yeah.
landed back from R&R,
Oh,
Tet
really?
68 in Tonsanute. I landed at Tonsanute.
Oh,
You
we
in-
landed at, no,
Benoit.
Benoit.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
not a good place to land during Tet.
No.
There was a lot going on then. Okay, so you landed at Benoit Air Base, and did you have to go through ninth replacement? When there, they send you direct to a.
I think women, they had, I don't remember going through 90th replacement. The guys all did,
Yeah.
but the WAC detachment sent somebody over and picked me up.
Oh, okay.
Because there weren't that many women.
Yeah, because they already had.
So they knew what to do with me.
Already knew what to do with you. So you went to Long Bend. Long Bend was the largest military installation in the world.
Yeah.
At the time, had 55. In that time, it had a little over 55,000 troops. And I don't know how many WACs were there, but there weren't many.
When I first got there, I think there was like 60 some, maybe.
Was there that many?
Yeah, if that many.
Well, as a private, I never got a chance to see one anyway.
I know. We hid from you.
Yeah, I know it. Now you stayed at the WACs detachment. Was there with the nurses?
No. The nurses stayed at the
93rd Evac hospital.
Yeah, the hospital.
Okay. Now where was the
WAC detachment was probably a mile towards the ammo dump.
Oh, okay, a good place.
Because we used to, when the ammo dump got hit, we used to sit there and watch it.
Okay.
Out our back stairs.
Then your first night in Vietnam was probably the night that the big explosion went off then for the ammo dump test.
Yep.
I remember that one well.
Yeah.
You were close enough that you felt it as well as saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was my entrance to Vietnam.
You probably had second thoughts about maybe South Carolina wasn't as bad as you thought it was.
Oh yeah, I thought, boy, go out and shoot.
that was the way they welcomed her to country. But now, what did you do as in the engineers there? I understand you spent some time in helicopters and.
Yeah, I was. I worked for. Oh goodness, my memory. Facility Services Engineers, and we did a lot of work from field places. Would send us requisitions and different jobs they wanted done. And we would coordinate getting all that stuff together.
Mm-hmm. You spend a lot of helicopter time?
Not as much as I would have liked. I wish I could have got out every day, but I got a lot of time harassing my colonel, and he, I guess, said, "Let's get rid of her." Send her out.
I can relate to that. Yeah. Look at that helicopter.
Wow.
Either that or got a kitten purring on the other end.
Yeah.
Were you ever shot down in a helicopter?
We were shot at, but they never did.
Okay, never got you. Okay.
Thank goodness.
Now I understand from our conversations past, you did carry a weapon.
Yeah, I carried a 12-gauge shotgun, which not supposed to. Women were not allowed to carry weapons at the time, but I had shot professional skeet, and I think they figured out that I knew how to handle a shotgun, so they gave me a shotgun to play with when I flew.
Well, there's a Facebook site for Vietnam veterans only, and somebody mentioned a skeet range at Long Bend.
Yeah, there was one at Long Bench out by the ammo dump, believe it or not. You could see the ammo dump from the skeet range.
Gee, okay. Well, as a private, there's a lot of places in Long Bend I didn't get to see, but I definitely didn't realize it was a skeet range.
Yeah.
They were building Loon Foon's Chinese restaurant when I left.
Yeah, I must have been right behind you because they had just put it up right before I left.
Yeah, I left in June 68. So,
yeah.
And they were framing it at the time, right next to the miniature golf course.
Now that I don't remember.
And so you went out and so forth. Now, when you went out to these places, now whenever I went out as an engineer, I went out with the 9th Infantry, and we usually were walking or humping it through the jungle or armored personnel carrier. You flew in on a helicopter or whatever. But doing tet, there was a lot of stuff that had to be replaced and fixed. There was a lot of bridges and so forth.
Yeah.
And what was your typical day like? A WAC in Long Bend, Vietnam, with the heat and humidity and.
Well, most of the time I had to stay in the base because they didn't want us out running around, they thought. But typical day is go to the office and do engineer paperwork, and somebody sent in requests. We had to go hunt down the stuff. And on Long Bend, we'd hunt for things for people that needed things that we weren't supposed to really issue.
Yeah, we all, you know, I had my first sergeant. You could name anything you wanted to, and he'd find it somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some strange stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine 55,000 men and 60 women.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had,
Y'all were very popular, I would think.
yeah, on Friday nights, I think Friday and Saturday nights. I don't know how they ever got it. We had a big sheet up and a movie we had a movie camera or a projector, yeah, projector. And somehow we got, I guess, from special services or
Yeah, I
something,
think special services.
got films, and we'd sit and watch movies. And those of us that have boyfriends or whoever, we'd invite people over, and everybody sit out on the dirt and watch movies. No, we couldn't drink.
You couldn't drink a beer?
Not in the whack shack.
Oh, gee. Well, we weren't supposed to either. I never could understand that. We had a liquor rationing card, and you could buy it, but you weren't supposed to have it in the barracks.
Yeah, yeah.
And about once a month, the sergeants would come through the barracks and confiscate all the liquor there. And they never had to buy any because they had all the free liquor they wanted. Yeah.
They gave me one, and I gave it my cards. The guys would say, "Lee, go down and buy me something because I don't drink."
Well, we had the NCO club that had beer and shows about 5 or 6 nights a week. So
yeah, I went to one of those shows one night there in Long Bend. I said, "No, that's I want to see the male dancers, not a bunch of Filipino dancers."
Rolling on the river. Rolling on the river. That was on the river. That was we had a lot of that. We had a lot of those shows and so forth. And so forth. Now, did you get a chance to go to the Bob Hope show?
No, I had duty that day for, what was it? I forgot. I think I had to work that day. Either that or I had NCO duty or something.
Yeah.
But I know I missed it, which kind of made me mad.
Now, what did you do on your off time besides go to the movie? And
you really want to know?
Well, if you want, let's put it this way. I want to know what you want to tell. Well, that's the difference.
I was a major shooter of skeet.
Okay.
And I met some other people that were shooters, and we all got together, and some of them were rather high rank, and the highest rank of them was a general, and he said, "I'm going to get us a skeet range." And we had a skeet range within a month or two. He had built a skeet range.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And it was out by the ammo dump.
Yeah. So you got to shoot a lot of skeet.
Yeah, we had 12 gauge shotguns, Remington 12 gauge, shells as many as we wanted. We didn't have to pay a cent. The guys from around the country who shot skeet somehow, I guess, well, we were in the skeet magazine a couple of times. I guess they read and said, "Oh, let's go to Long Bend, go shoot skeet." So we had good time. Someplace I have a magazine that has us our first big Long Bend skeet shoot.
There's probably a supply sergeant somewhere whose total job was to make sure there was always skeet on hand.
Yeah,
You know there was.
especially since General loved to shoot skeet. He'd
Yeah.
come by my office and, "Wilson, you busy?" "No, sir."
Let's go.
Let's go.
So you're in Vietnam, and you got there at probably the worst time to ever get to Vietnam, and because the war really started and it was going on, but it was really got interesting during Tet. And you were a skeet shooter, and you went out on helicopters and so forth. And I guess you went the PX. They had a nice PX there.
Yeah, they had a nice PX.
Of course, you probably bought a reel-to-reel tape player like everybody else. It was probably almost a requirement to buy a reel-to-reel tape player and a camera, 35 millimeter camera.
Well, I bought a camera for my brother,
Oh, okay.
but I bought a reel tape recorder, and I had that for years. I forgot who I gave it to. I think my son got it.
Who did you have back home at that time? Mother and father?
I had my mom and my stepdad, my dad, my brother and his wife, and I think that's about all. Well, friends, of course.
Yeah.
And friends.
So you got a steady supply of mail then?
Oh
and
yeah,
so forth.
yeah.
important part of being over there was getting the mail and so forth.
Oh yeah, every day you run by the mail shack and mail, please. Not enough, but
Yeah.
it was well worth it. They didn't send enough goodies in the mail though, but other than that.
Well, they may have it may have been confiscated by the mail clerks on the way.
That's right, because they have to check everything.
Yeah.
Sorry, mailman.
Yeah. And where'd you go? Did you go to R&R?
I went to R&R. I went to Hong Kong the first time. Absolutely fell in love with it. We got, what was it, R&R, and what else was it?
You had an in-country R&R like Vung Tau, probably where we were.
No, I went to Hong Kong twice.
Okay. Twice. Okay.
Yeah. I loved Hong Kong. Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, I extended. That's why I got the second
Oh,
one.
you
That's right.
extended.
I extended to stay longer, just to go back to Hong Kong. I loved Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what a fantastic city.
Well, in my case, if I had extended, I'd had to get a divorce.
You were married.
Yeah, I was
right.
married. My
Yeah.
wife told me if I got killed in Vietnam, she'd kill me. So, so we've back home. And did you meet anybody? Did you meet any guys over there when you were there then?
Oh yeah, I met my ex-husband. Well, he wasn't my ex then, but that's where I met.
That's
my
where you
husband.
met him. Okay.
Yeah, he worked in the engineers downstairs. I worked upstairs.
Okay. What rank was he?
He was a lieutenant. We were not supposed to be dating.
Yeah. That's all right. One of my best friends was somebody I think a whole lot of, Ann Capicelli. You probably know her. And she was an enlisted WAC, and she was married to a colonel. And in fact, he got a Silver Star at the D-Day. He got a Silver Star at D-Day. He worked for Omar Bradley.
Wow.
Actually, he was the third time they got married, Omar Bradley gave her away, but she had a problem after they got married because he was an officer and she was an enlisted person until she got out.
Yeah.
And
no, that never bothered anybody because.
Well, Vietnam's a little bit different than the States.
Yeah. Well, we weren't married in Vietnam. Yeah. That's where I met him, and then when we came back to the States, he came to Vegas and where I lived and proposed, and then he was still in the Army. So when we got married, his first post was Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Yeah. Now, when you extended, how long did you have to extend for? 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months.
6 months to go back to Hong Kong. Okay.
Oh yeah, it was worth it.
Okay.
It was worth it.
Well, all the guys that I knew that took the R&R in Hong Kong couldn't remember a whole lot about Hong Kong.
Well, I don't drink. First time I ever drank, I got sick, and that let me know I can't drink.
Yeah.
So I said no. Did a lot of partying,
Yeah. All right. So we got two R&Rs, and I'm surprised that you didn't get the Vung Tau. The Vung Tau was the R&R in country at the beach.
I think we were supposed to go there one time, but we got under attack from. I don't think it was Tet. We were under attack, and they closed everything down, and we couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah. I never made it to Vung Tau either. So.
Yeah. A lot of the girls went down there.
Yeah. Well, got a lot of peripheral noise behind us here. So now you're back. When you came back, did you get out of the military then, or?
Yeah, I got out got out of the military, and I married my husband. He was still in the military, and later on down the line, he got out, and I went back into the National Guard for years after that.
Well, what'd you do? Did you work outside the home when you were back?
Nope, had babies. Okay. Had babies for a while. Yeah, just a military wife for raising my son Michael and my daughter Belinda.
Yeah. You did a pretty good job with them.
Oh yeah, they're good kids. Turned out all right.
Careful, they might be listening.
I know it. I hope not.
Yeah. All right. what else you want to tell us about when that plane? I remember when that plane door opened. Would you landed at night or in the daytime?
In the daytime.
In the daytime. All right. I remember when that plane landed and they opened the door. And I'm an Old Colony native, and I thought I was used to heat and humidity. But I remember when that plane door opened at Benoit Air Base, and that heat and smells came in. And my first thought was, this ain't North Carolina.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
No, the heat didn't bother me. Never did bother me when it wasn't humid. Unfortunately, it was humid 90% of the time.
Yes, it was.
And humidity just about killed me. They had to push me. I think I did have to go to the hospital once because I was dehydrated, I guess, and told me I had to start drinking a lot more water. And I said, why? And they said, Lee, you're not used to the weather.
Well, y'all out there, y'all got that dry heat everybody talks about.
Oh yeah, in Vegas, yeah. 110 doesn't bother me a bit, but that humidity, I never did get used to it over there.
Well, I've never been out there. I wanted one of these days to experience dry heat, because to me, heat is heat.
Our group ought to go out there.
Yeah. Now, in 2009, 12 of us went back to Vietnam, and Lee went with us. And long about that time, Lee had developed a diabetic situation and had a hard time keeping her blood sugar in order there. In fact, we all got off the airplane, and then everybody was saying, "Where's Lee?" in Hong Kong.
They left me. They left me on the airplane.
The person sitting with her just got out and got off the airplane and thought she was behind him. And finally, I guess the flight attendants woke you up or whatever, and your blood sugar was way out of whack.
I panicked. I didn't know what was going on because it affects your brain a bit. And I was shaky, and I'm going, I didn't know where I was, who I was, what I was doing, or anything else. Yeah. I don't think anybody ever came and found me either, did you?
No, we didn't know where to look. We didn't know the person sitting beside you had just walked off.
Probably Bob.
Well, I'm not certain. That was part of the Matthews group.
Yeah.
We thought we were part of the NCBI group. Years back, but then we discovered later we're part of the Matthews group.
Yeah.
And
I just slept through it, I guess.
Yeah. And then we got to Vietnam, and we started that marathon. As soon as we hit Vietnam, we were on the go around the clock just about. But we went to the orphanage. We carried the bicycles and bought bicycles at the orphanage, and got to see the kids.
Oh, that was so great.
Yeah. And then we went to Quang Tri Providence Home for the Blind and got to see them. And then we did a little bit of sightseeing while we were there. It
was such a pretty country. The first time we were there, but we didn't really enjoy it. But I remember driving up that mountain.
The path, that path. From Da Nang, from Hue to Da Nang, when you cross that path.
Absolutely gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. You know, there's a tunnel through that mountain now. Instead of half a day, you can go through in 20 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
You can still take the road over, the scenic road over.
Oh, that was gorgeous.
But now there's a tunnel through it, and it brings you out right the backside of Da Nang, right there on the water. It's beautiful.
Wow.
And it's amazing how much time you can save. Wow. I mean, like I said, you can go from Hue to Da Nang probably 20 to 30 minutes instead of half a day across the mountain. But it was nice to going across the mountains.
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
Song was a great guide and gave us a little bit of history as we went. And
he was neat.
Yeah, and we were back to the orphanage recently to see the people there, and it's amazing how the kids had grown. And the young lady that you and Ron Harris talked to was in a wheelchair that was so got so excited when you spoke to her and so forth. She's actually walking and was in Special Olympics now and home with her mother. So
how great!
Hopefully the playground and exercise and so forth kind of helped her. And the young man that was suffering from progeria, which is the fast aging disease, he's doing well. He's well past the normal lifetime of a kid with that. He's doing well. So I know that you and Kenny Rucker spent a lot of time with him and so forth because he was.
Oh, such neat kids.
Yes, those kids were neat. I'm going to turn it over down to our co-host, Mr. Bob Matthews. He always likes to ask these deep analytical questions and so forth.
Yeah, he always makes my mind work too much.
Yeah.
So it just goes blank.
Before we get going though, I want to tell you that we have been in D.C. and I have seen people walk up to Lee and say, "That's your husband's medals." And when they got out of the hospital, in traction, they never asked that question again. But I also, we were there one time. There was a bunch of nurses when they were doing the women's memorial, and I saw nurses walk up and ask you if you were a nurse, and you said no. How rude they were to just turn around and walk off.
Yeah, they were.
You were in country Vietnam vet. Just as much, or maybe more so than some of them.
Yeah.
It was amazing to me that.
Yeah, they were not very nice to me.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
They just because they couldn't do your job. Emlyn, if you can do our bumper music, I'm going to switch seats with Mr. Matthews.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Bob Matthews. Thank you, Bill, for a great first half of the show. And Lee, thank you for coming on tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me.
As Bill mentioned before, the title of our series and our show is Lessons of Vietnam. And years ago, I think probably 15 years ago, when we started the course in the schools in Wake County, we needed some very strong people to go in front of a group of high school students and tell them about something they didn't know they wanted to hear. And one of our biggest assets and strongest members was this young lady right here, Lee Wilson, who has chaperoned many trips to the wall in DC, has come into classes and spoke, and was very, very influential. Because if you'll go with me for a minute and you'll think about a high school class learning about Vietnam, it's brand new to them. And all of a sudden they have a whole new set of adults coming in, not coaches, not teachers, not parents. They have the veterans community coming in.
And they're always so interested. That's what amazed me.
It is. And Lee, if you'll reflect a bit with me, can you recall the early days when you come in, what you considered maybe the hardest part of teaching Vietnam to the students?
Just, I guess the first time for me, I was kind of scared of the questions they would ask or wouldn't ask.
There you go.
Yeah, but each time it always amazed me. The questions were not stupid questions. They weren't frivolous. The kids really wanted to know something, and they were interested. They knew history, and it was fun to talk to them.
Yeah, that's great, because I think all of the vets that started the course with us, and to this day, it was a breath of fresh air to come in and find a group of students, 18, 19 years old, that wanted to hear about something 40 years ago. And they wanted to hear in depth about it.
Oh, yeah.
And they were genuinely interested. And as Bill mentioned before, your time in Vietnam, your flight over, looking back all this time in history, in your personal life, do you have any regrets about serving in Vietnam?
No. I personally think it was the best time. It grew me up in a way, but not bad, but just grew me up to think more and a little more. Well, I was in the Army, so I learned respect, but from being in Vietnam, you learn a lot more respect.
Well, Lee, the Vietnam veteran is a kind of a stereotype. For a long time, we fought to get rid of that stereotype with the Vietnam veteran. And if people would listen to some of the statistics and so forth, the Vietnam veteran may be the most successful veteran in history after their service. Educated, working, providing for their families and so forth. Yeah. So getting back to your role in Lessons of Vietnam, Bill mentioned the trip back to Vietnam, the bridge back trip. The 12 of us that went that time went back. Have you reflected on that much?
Oh yeah. Every time you guys go back again, I wish I could. I just really want to go, but my health, I just can't do it anymore. but I'd give anything to be able to go back again because it was inspirational. It lets you look at a country that you were kind of afraid of when you were there,
Sure,
in a
that's
way,
good. That's an excellent point.
and see how beautiful. Well, I always thought it was beautiful,
Sure,
even
sure.
when I was in country.
Well, you know, Lee, Bill Dixon had a quote a little while ago, and he said that Vietnam is a country, not a war.
Yeah.
The war was part of Vietnam.
Hmm.
And when you went back, you did such a good job going back with all of us there, made such an impression. When we went back the second and third time, we saw the seeds we sowed before.
Mm.
As Bill mentioned, the kids are growing up. They're speaking better English. We hope we made an impression. I know you did.
Oh.
You and your roommate, Sue Vaughn,
Yeah, Susan. Yeah.
although you left her in Hanoi one night.
Oh, well,
Oh, I don't know about that story.
picky. No, I wish I could go back. I really do. But I know you guys that take care of me, but I
Oh,
don't
we
think
certainly would.
my daughter wouldn't let me out of her sight, probably.
Well, we would take care, you know that.
Yeah.
But Lee, what would in your mind now? What was the hardest part of serving that year? In your case, a year and a half in Vietnam. What was the hardest part of that for you?
Oh, goodness. The restrictions, I think. Army restrictions. You know, you can't go here, you can't go there. Even though we did sneak out doing things.
No.
That we weren't supposed to, but I wasn't used to the Army part of it, I guess.
Mhm.
And it just, I think that's about the worst thing I had.
You know, it was funny because you were talking earlier in the show about extending. And, you know, I never knew that. I'm finding more and more about you during the show
Yeah,
here.
extended.
Because Bill was thinking of extending. Joe Dixon would have killed him, of course.
Yeah.
And you mentioned your R&R to Hong Kong.
Mm.
And I was fortunate enough to have an R&R to Hawaii, where I met Betty. And that extension came up and it went down. There'll be no extending or I'll kill you and things like that. But, you know, looking back at the Vietnam years and the guys you've met since Vietnam, did you keep in contact when you got back with any of your friends from them?
A few of them. My roommate, Vicky, stayed in touch with her and Bill, who worked in the engineer also with me. And they got married. And unfortunately, Bill died some years back. And then Vicky passed away. And I think those are the only, other than my ex-husband, of course.
Sure.
He's still around.
You know, we were talking before, and we talked about this many times before, but one of the oddities of Vietnam was the way we went alone, the way we served. You met people, you made fast friends, of course, with your time in country, but you came home alone. And then all of a sudden, when you came back to the States from Vietnam, you almost were forced to be quiet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they said, like we mentioned many times before, Vietnam, shh. And so I said, wait a minute, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, they didn't. Nobody really wanted to talk about it. Now I don't really remember my folks asking me much about it.
Well, I can recall, like, it was vividly meeting you at the first meeting at the NCBVI when I met Bill Dixon and Bud Gross at the fair. And they said, who's this wise guy, Matthews, this teacher? So I came to the meeting and I said, you know, nobody wanted to hear about Vietnam, but I think I've got a side door we can get in, and it's called the school system.
Ooh.
And the kids there, as you mentioned earlier on the show, wanted to hear everything.
Oh, yeah.
And it just mushroomed.
And that's great. That's great.
Because you were on the ground floor. You know, I'll never be able to thank you enough because we took the lessons of Vietnam with your help and Bill's help and all the NCBVI veterans and the charter teachers from one class at Emlo to 1,000 schools.
Wow.
And this course has been everywhere. And it starts with people like you that are willing to share their time and their stories, especially with the young ladies. Because I was telling someone today, I was over at NC State, I wanted to ask you a question today too. We're probably going to teach a course at NC State this year. And every time we do this, there's several women in the course. It's called Encore. It's for people between 50 and 65.
Oh, my goodness.
And, yeah, they come in, it's like continuing education.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people were what I call those who waited, the wives, the mothers. They watched Vietnam on TV. They got home and they maybe were a little bit, what should I say, shy about asking questions.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't want to know the answer. So
Yeah.
you don't ask a lot of questions about to your husband and so forth. So when the girls were in the class, the one lady said, Vanita Gupta, one of our honor students, said to me one time, Mr. Matthews, why are the only people you bring in here are men?
I'll have to
Think about that.
try to go. With my health, I have a little trouble,
Sure.
but hopefully next time you go, give me a holler and I'll try to definitely make it.
We'd
Because
like to.
I enjoyed it so much.
Well, when we started to talk like this to the girls, they come in, they said, wait a minute now. Then we brought into the class 4 of the wives that waited at home. Kathy Gross come in, Joe Dixon come in, Betsy Harsh came in
Oh boy.
and talked to the older students and the younger students. A whole new layer of Vietnam was uncovered.
Yeah.
Because, most people can realize by watching TV and the movies and the books about Vietnam. They know a little bit about it. But they don't know what it's like in your imagination. But you and I and Bill were all in Vietnam, of course.
Yeah.
It's right in front of our nose every day. These people that were home, it was in letters. It was in phone calls. If you got a Mars call, hello, I love you, over.
Yeah. I think once I made one Mars call.
Okay, listen, can you do a Mars call now? Like this? Hello, I love you, over.
Yeah. Hello. What?
Hey guys, I gotta break in a second here.
Yes.
Can you, Lee? Would you be gracious enough to give Bill the pillow?
What you sitting on?
Oh. I'm sorry.
Sorry, no problem. There you go. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Or was I too tall for you?
I want you to use it, Bill. I mean, Bob. Sorry, I said Bill. I meant Bob.
That's okay.
That's all right.
I was
knew
going
you
to
were
say,
talking
why is
about.
Bill would need to get.
There we go. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're so
now
much
that's
better.
better. Go on.
I am now a manly man.
There's not much
yes.
you can do about the face.
I know.
My next question deals with maybe now, when you see a lot of the soldiers coming home from Afghanistan and even earlier now to the Middle East, it seems to me everybody seems to have a PTSD. They seem to have something where they want to get some counseling for. Now, do you have any after effects you know of from Vietnam?
Yeah, but I hid him so good for so long,
Mm-hmm.
Because back then you really didn't want to admit it.
Okay.
And it was just hard. But I go to the VA now for my physical,
Sure.
but also they said, when they found out I was a Vietnam vet, they said, well, what do you think about Vietnam? And that's when some problems came up
Sure.
and some health troubles from Vietnam that are not any fun.
Mm-hmm.
That I think all of us that were there have some, but I'm getting along better.
You are?
Yeah, I'm getting along. It's been a long road, but
Sure. Looking back at Vietnam with the 50th anniversary coming up of Vietnam, and it's becoming so popular now to talk about Vietnam in the classroom, on college campuses, in seminars. And Bill and I are involved in this Agent Orange informational seminar coming up now.
got
And
that.
every Vietnam vet is diagnosed to have been affected in some way, small or large, by the Agent Orange defoliant. Now, you recall why it was used and why Admiral Zumwalt put it in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And it's been up for many, many debates. Was he right? Was he wrong in using it? Because no one knew then the effect of the dioxins today.
Yeah.
But when he ordered it and used it, you talk to many of the Vietnam veterans today, and they say, well, looking back in history, he was right in using it.
Yeah. To kill the foliage, They didn't know.
They didn't know.
They didn't know. I mean, I've got Agent Orange problems, and I didn't know, and I was in the engineers that kind of planned some of that stuff.
Sure, sure. It was a time when a lot of decisions weren't thought through. Yeah,
That's a good way to put it.
that was a kind way to put it.
Yes, yes.
Well, Lee, let's switch gears for a moment, if you
Okay.
don't mind. Let's talk about coming home.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about that flight home first. Now, you go to Vietnam, as you mentioned to Bill earlier, the heat hit you. You couldn't take the heat. You got a little bit dehydrated. You adjusted to that. You extended. And then the time came to come home for good.
Mm-hmm.
So could you talk a little bit about the flight home?
Oh, I remember sitting at Benoit. And we got there early in the morning, and of course, the plane wasn't going to leave until late afternoon. And it was just broiling hot, miserable. And all of us we were still in fatigues.
Sure, sure.
And they wanted me to put my my cords on. I said, no, I'm not going to go home in cords on an airplane for, 12 hours?
12,
Yeah.
not 25.
25 hours, however. And it was miserable. Miserable. I was so glad to get on the airplane.
Sure, sure.
It couldn't go fast enough.
Where did you land? Where did you go into the States at?
San Francisco.
Okay.
And I had a friend there in San Francisco. I didn't let my parents know when I was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
They knew about,
Sure.
but I stayed with them for a couple days before I decided to go home to Vegas just to calm down
Sure.
and
Coming home for almost all Vietnam veterans is a special chapter in their lives. Everyone handled a little bit differently.
mhm.
Some were met at the airport with open, loving arms. Some were met differently.
Mhm.
I'm sure you recall some of the wild crowds at the airports.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I lucked out. I think I heard some words, but what I was in my cords and couldn't respond. So I was being polite.
Well, we had to be polite.
Oh yeah, yeah, because we would be the problem if we retaliated.
Well, because, looking back at the Vietnam years, one of the reasons we went to Vietnam was to give the South Vietnamese freedom
Mhm.
of choice, of dissent. And we've always allowed people to question everything in this country.
Mhm.
And we even have gone so far in Lessons of Vietnam to bring into the classroom, not just Vietnam veterans, not just wives of Vietnam veterans. We brought in evaders that went to Canada. We brought in war protesters. And I'm getting into my last round of questions for you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay. Excuse me. Let's start with the question I asked someone today. I was talking to someone in Raleigh about Vietnam, and they were talking about what we did not handle in the classroom. She said to me, what are you afraid of to bring up in the classroom? I said, well, I'm not afraid of anything. And she goes, well, you bring up the draft evasion, the men and women that went to Canada. I said, certainly. You had to speak in our classroom. And she said to me, what do you think of them personally, off the record? So I'm asking you that question. If you would know someone that was a draft evader, what do you think?
Back then, I wouldn't be too happy with them. Now I can understand. But back then, I'd been in the Army, a year and a half, 2 years before I went to Vietnam.
Sure.
And so I was military, and
You
then
were.
had the military mind.
Never crossed your mind.
No. And then after I got back, it really kind of pissed me off. And then later on, when I moved to North Carolina, I joined National Guard and was with them for years and years and years. So I always had military.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was interesting because the more she talked to me today, I said, well, all of the veterans I talked to, one of the things we go into the classroom for is education.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no question off limits. And there is no one we won't talk to about this time in history.
Yeah.
And some of us Never thought of going to Canada. Never thought of going to Mexico. Never thought of going underground.
Mm-hmm.
Your country asked you to serve. In your case, you enlisted. You
Yeah.
joined.
Yeah. I didn't have an education. I mean, I had high school,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't have an education. I was up in San Francisco with friends, didn't really have a job. I said, well, I don't know why it ever got in my head, but I said, why not?
Mm-hmm.
I went and, well, I think I saw a recruiter or something talk to me. And I said, why not? You know, I need it. Got nothing else to do. So,
You know, for a while, the Army or the Armed Service, any of the services, was a place to go after high school to kind of find your way.
yeah, and that's,
Yeah.
I guess that's what it was.
Mhm,
Really
find your
was.
way. So with coming back from Vietnam, spending a year and a half there, spending the time in the service, did that kind of set you up for life?
I think so, yeah. It really did. It gave me let me know that I have a brain. Let me know how to use that brain and know what I wanted. And I wanted something,
Sure.
and eventually I got it. You know, I got 3 beautiful kids and a good life. I can't complain.
Good, good.
Can't complain. And good friends, good military friends.
Yes, that's for sure. Well, Lee, you have been a tremendous asset to our goal was to teach a nation about Vietnam. And I think you might know that Bill and I and some of the guys are putting together a book on teaching Vietnam in America. And the book is entitled We All Miss Christmas. And we did.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my next question. Christmas in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Would you share yours with us, please?
I think I woke up in tears when I got up and I said, oh, it's Christmas.
It's Christmas.
Where's the Christmas? Well, they did have at the WAC detachment, they did have a big tree outside.
They did?
Yeah. I mean, not big. I mean,
Yeah.
5 feet, 6 feet.
Uh-huh.
But it didn't seem like Christmas. You know, it was just another day.
Yeah, that's exactly
I
right.
can't even remember if we had to work that day. I don't think we did, but I don't remember anything special or anything like that. The chow hall had a nice meal.
Well, there was probably at the height of Vietnam, I think there were 575,000 men and women in Vietnam, South Vietnam, at one time. And you just figure for a minute, you use your math of how many Christmas mornings there were with somebody not there.
Yeah,
So when I say we all miss Christmas, I don't just mean the soldiers in Vietnam.
yeah.
I mean the families at home.
Oh, yeah.
There was one person missing,
Hmm.
and that person hopefully came home. And I know you have been with us many times to the wall in DC. So my next question to you, and I ask this to all the veterans, and I put it to my memory banks. Do you remember your first visit to the wall?
Oh, yeah.
Could you share that experience with us, please?
It was like seeing my brothers and sisters that I hadn't seen in years and years and years. And when you touched the wall, it was like they were touching back to you. It was warm and it talked to you. I think all the veterans feel that way.
Oh,
It just talked to you.
that is so prophetic because I've said that before and people look at me very strange. And I had the privilege this last summer of going to the wall for the first time with my grandchildren.
Oh my goodness.
And Betty and I have been there many times before, but my grandson Cooper's 13 years old, and he's such a delight. All the grandkids are, but I wanted Cooper at 13 to rub the wall,
Oh,
and he did.
oh.
And I tell you, Lee, it was like one of those things you said before. Bill and I have mentioned this many times before. Standing at the wall at midnight
Oh,
with headlights glistening, snowing, they do talk to you,
uh-huh. They
and
talk
they
to you.
do say thank you.
Hmm.
We have told their story for 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's been, as we said before, a labor of love,
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about Vietnam nationwide.
Yeah.
So going to the wall, you've probably been to the wall, would you say 10 times maybe or more?
Not as much as I want. I wish I could go back. With my health, it's kind of hard now. But I've always loved it because it's comforting, and I like to go at night.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, for some reason it's quieter, and you can sit back and I always look at certain names
Sure.
and
You certainly can reflect, can't you? Sure.
yeah, it's like looking in a mirror almost.
Well, it's a part of our lives that will never, ever change.
Yeah,
And it's a part of your life that will never, never leave you.
yeah.
We have a new expression. We got a new T-shirt coming out for the Ron's play, and it says, when were you in Vietnam? And then it says last night. And then, one of the guys said that to us one time. We stopped a few months ago to eat somewhere on one of our trips, and the guy came in and had a hat on like mine. We always say welcome home. And I said, where were you in Vietnam? And he said, last night.
Yeah, oh,
And
that's great.
I froze.
Yeah,
And Bill looked at me and he went, that's cool. Last night.
yeah,
Me too.
yeah.
So Lee, a couple more questions. And let me ask you this one, okay? How do you feel about the Women's Memorial in DC? Adjacent to the wall?
No. I don't know how to say this without sounding disrespectful, but I like it.
Yep.
But it's the Nurses Memorial.
I see.
I don't see anything, for the enlisted women. No, I mean, the nurses did a great job, but
Sure.
they should have put a little more something to the one supposedly enlisted woman that pointed out that we were enlisted women, not the nurses.
Actually,
Yeah, but yeah, it's a nice memorial.
sure. Well, there are, of the 58,375 names on the wall, there are 8 women on the wall.
Mhm.
We've rubbed the women before for certain requests. We have a plaque with the women on it. And usually when this comes up, not my last question, but one of my last questions, is we come up with a woman who we all know very well. And we have, some of us have an opinion, some of us do not. Some of us shy away from it. But could I please go into your memory banks and ask you what you think of Jane Fonda?
I don't think I could use that kind of language, can
Well, you could paraphrase.
I? I don't care what people say and how long ago it was and all her apologies. She's a traitor as far as I'm concerned, and she treated us like trash, and we were covering her ass.
That's very clear. And I thank you for your clarity. For your clarity.
My clarity, okay.
Well, as we move on with the show, we've had probably about 25 shows now. And thanks to Amnon and Nissan Communications, we have been able to reach almost everybody we thought about. And
Wow.
we have taken our message to as far as Seattle, into the Midwest and St. Louis. And Bill and Joe and I are heading out to Boston
Wow.
at the end of November to speak at the National Teachers Convention, where we will speak to a room full of 200 teachers that want to take our course and put it in their schools. So the next show, November 12th, will be a town meeting on Agent Orange. And hopefully we can educate people about everything about Agent Orange, the registry, how to get a blood test. Don't be afraid. Do this, do that. But
And what it causes.
yes, all the diseases and so forth and the maladies. But the big message is please get informed.
Yeah.
And in today's informational age, if you're not informed, it's really your fault.
Yeah, I didn't know about it for years.
Me neither. In fact, well, most of us, I think I can speak for most of the best when I say this, but most of us come home in our 20s and you think you're indestructible.
Mhm.
You're like Superman.
Yeah.
I think, I'm fine. I'm immortal. All of a sudden, as you get a little bit older, things start to break down a bit. You think back, why? And this could be an answer to a lot of Americans. Agent Orange may have caused some things. I'm getting tested myself.
Mhm.
And I hope nothing's wrong, but if it is, I'll deal with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt some of the problems I'm having now are caused of it, because Longfin
Sure.
was sprayed quite often. And I remember walking in it. So
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And there's also a lot of problems about Agent Orange in Vietnam itself. The Vietnamese,
Oh, I'm sure.
thousands, millions of
The
people.
poor kids, I can imagine.
Sure. So Lee, again, I want to thank you for being on the show tonight and sharing your past with us and your life about Vietnam, because I think I can speak for you, and I can speak for myself. Vietnam changed everything for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it became something, as we mentioned before, it's like a river. It runs through you every day
Yeah.
of your life.
It does. It grew me up and scared me and everything else, but it made me a better person.
Well, what would you say, Lee, if you could leave the audience tonight with the title of our course and answer the question? I always say this for last. What would you say is the number one lesson from the Vietnam conflict that America has learned?
That it's not the soldiers' fault, and it's not us that should be blamed like some of the people used to. No. That always made me mad.
Always made me mad too.
Yeah.
I think as we get older, the information is abundant. And there's no longer one line in the history books on Vietnam. People have a much better perspective. They ask better questions.
Let's see what a good job we did.
And they look at the Vietnam vet and they say those words we wanted to hear for so long. Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Lee Wilson, welcome home. Thank you.
Thank you.
And have a good evening, everybody. We'll see you next show, November 12th. Agent Orange, Part 2. So Mr.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Your Healthy Pet with Gisela DiCarlo. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.